Story 1. I moved into the apartment on October 1st. The ad was straightforward. Spacious 2-bed, 1 bath, quiet building, furnished living room, utilities included. But it was the price, $600 a month, that pulled me in. In the current market, it was a gift. 2-bedroom apartment, right near campus, basement laundry, and cat fur already ground into the carpet. My roommate, whom I'll call Monica, replied quickly. She sent 3 photos, tidy bookshelf, bright living room, and a smiling selfie. She claimed she just needed someone to help with rent while she finished her research. The catch? She was gone for long stretches, telling me she'd be staying with family out of state until the semester break. Sweet deal. We met the afternoon before she left. She lingered a bit in her bedroom doorway, pale, neat, dressed in khakis, clean sneakers, long dark hair in a ponytail. Signed the lease as co-tenants, exchanged keys. She carefully counted out $300 for her half of the rent and handed it to me. Her nails were immaculate. No distractions, no fuss. She told me she'd be in and out over the holidays, but should be gone for most of the fall semester, and then I'd have the place mostly to myself. I unpacked and explored. The apartment felt roomy. The walls were light cream. The only oddity, on the living room bookshelf, dozens of small wooden boxes with carved labels. November entry, December entry, all the way to the next March. Each box had a date and a single name. I shrugged it off as quirky decor, roommate fetish, or craft. Monica didn't mention them in our meet. 2 days later, I found a note taped to the underside of the fridge handle. You turned off my light last night. Please keep the hall lamp on. I have trouble sleeping. My throat clenched reading it. I lived alone. Well, with a roommate who was mostly gone, but nothing in the apartment ever felt used while she was out. I left the lamp on from then on. Privacy was sacred to me. I locked my bedroom door. I never left the front door unlocked. Yet, I found another note 2 nights later on the bathroom mirror. You locked the door before I slept. I can't open it. Please leave it unlocked so I can come in. My heart hammered. I texted Monica. Did she leave notes? She responded with alarm, said no, and implied someone was breaking in. The locks didn't seem tampered. She offered to come home early to check the door. I declined, too nervous to show I was upset. I inspected the lock. No signs of forced entry. The note's handwriting? Elegant cursive. Feminine. Not mine, not teenage. I started hearing faint knocks at the bedroom door between midnight and 3 a.m. Tap, pause, tap. 3 slow knocks. I didn't respond. It stopped. I slept on the couch after that. Lights on, door open. By week 2, I became convinced I was being watched. Not by cameras, I hadn't noticed any. But something in the apartment felt changed. I set up my own little motion-activated night camera in the living room, angled toward the hall leading to my bedroom. That week, a weird pattern emerged. Every night around 3:17 a.m., the hallway was empty. But the hall lamp, which I kept on, flicked, dim for a second, then brighter. The lamp had a switch on the outlet, not dimmer. I logged hours of footage as best I could, compressed into motion segments. Each night, same pattern, same time on the camera. I'd wake up to a soft click, glimmer of movement at the doorway, then silence, then the light flicker, then nothing. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was faulty wiring. But in the kitchen's daylight, the fuse panel was new. Maybe it was drifting phantom flicker. But why always at 3:17? One night I heard footsteps in the hall. Light padding. Stop. Whispered exhale. Then steps fading toward the bathroom. I checked. She wasn't home. I recorded a voice with my phone under the door. Just breathing. Inhale. Exhale. A soft murmur. I'm here. I flinched. Silence burst. On October 14th, Monica texted, I'm home for a night. Be there around 6 p.m. I was already spooked. She hadn't come home in 2 weeks. She'd never seemed frightened during our meet. I prepared myself. Tidy space, laundry, fresh snacks. I rehearsed small talk. When she came in, she looked shocked. Why are the bedroom lights on? She asked, voice tight. I told her about the note and the flickering camera. She paled but took a breath. She asked to see what I was calling the entry boxes. I opened the living room bookshelf and she froze. Those are where I keep my roommate gifts. She cleared her throat, and I noticed her nails trembling slightly. Each box labeled by her. First time I saw him, his favorite coffee, the month we first met, each name was mine. My name, my exact first and last. Dated every month back to March, 6 months before we actually met. She claimed she'd made them to decorate her old room. Liked the sound of the name. Pure coincidence. That night, she slept in her room. I didn't. I stayed awake on the couch, phone recording again. The next morning, I checked the camera. But aside from the usual lamp flicker, something new. The door to Monica's apartment room, my rooftop neighbor's unit next door sharing a wall, had been cracked open at 2:58 a.m. Her neighbor said she was away mid-semester. The door wasn't forced, like it had been gently nudged. I contacted the neighbor, who confirmed nobody had permission. I texted Monica again, asked if something felt off. She replied calmly that she'd be gone all night again, but would check locks remotely via smart lock logs. When I checked later, her bedroom door hadn't been opened at all since she came home until 3:13 a.m., exactly 4 minutes after the usual flicker. I inspected those boxes again, opened a drawer, and found a live microphone device taped underneath one of them. I recognized the small recording light flicker. It was an off-brand voice recorder disguised in plain sight. I pulled it out, noticed wireless antenna. I confronted Monica via text. "Was that recorder yours?" She wrote, "That is my voice recorder. I use it for interviews, but I forgot to take it before I left for field research." I didn't listen to it, didn't turn it on. Her neat calm stood in contrast to how terrified I felt. I moved all of Monica's boxes, keying where each used to stand. That night I slept with the front door open and the hallway lamp cropped loose so it wouldn't flicker. At 3:17 a.m., my phone camera on night mode recorded live video. The lamp didn't flicker. The hall stayed dark. Then I heard her voice from the hall, a whisper. "Why did you move my name boxes?" Faint echo. It sounded like Monica, but when the figure appeared in the hall, just a blur, it was neither her face nor mine. I fumbled for the flashlight. The apartment hallway wall reflected nothing. Door frames looked unmarked. I stood up, doors all locked behind me. The figure reappeared in the hallway. Tall, minimal movement, dark outline with a movement of hair that didn't belong. Silhouette glided toward the kitchen. In horror, I started recording point-of-view video with my phone. It slid past the recorder box I'd removed, now lying on the floor. It paused. The shadow took it, tucked it under its arm. The hallway lamp, which was hardwired off, flicked on from its outlet via remote. The figure smiled. The teeth, too many teeth, then vanished. I ran into the street. Bare socks, pajamas, parked on the curb. I left that night. I packed the essentials, phone, wallet, backpack. I thought of her returning. Maybe she'd chase me down, but I didn't care. I pulled the backpack shut and glanced at the apartment. Lights off, silent building, everything normal. I went to a motel 2 miles away, marshmallow-colored walls. I deleted the motion camera files. I didn't want her real. At breakfast the next day, I received a text from Monica's number. "Did you find my story boxes in the living room? I only told our landlord we were moving in December. I'm back now." I stared at my coffee. There was no way she was the same person upstairs, or was she? Then I found another text immediately after. "You moved my favorite box. I hope you didn't break it." My face blanched. I pulled the phone away. Then she sent another file, a photo. It showed my face, corner of eye, asleep, tinted in red night vision. And behind me stood her, smiling behind the glass of my bedroom door. I realized the voice recorder pickups, the notes, the flickers. They weren't Monica. They were someone else. And she, whoever spoke, had her number. I called the landlord. I dropped the news. Someone might be using Monica's identity, or multiple identities. He assumed I meant identity theft academically, but his face turned when I mentioned recordings, weird boxes, notes on his property. He scheduled repairs and simultaneously listed her roommate agreement intangible, but offered stable access. I went back, asked to retrieve what still belonged to me. He let me with new keys and oversight. In the apartment, the boxes had vanished. The bookshelf had empty spots. The recorder was gone. The hall lamp replaced. Fresh paint over the burn outlet. Where the note had been taped under the fridge, now just clean metal. Carpets deep cleaned. But on the living room table was one box, small wood without a label. I opened it, and inside was the recorder with my missing data, still blinking, still unsent. And a note in tiny feminine cursive, "Thanks, now you have my story." I dropped everything and fled again. I'm writing this 2 days later from a hotel room on the edge of town. I haven't slept more than 2 hours in a row. I deleted that voice recorder photo. I blocked Monica's phone number again, or at least a different one really. I called the police and provided the short video clip. They traced the device. It had registered new SIM cards every week. Shipping labels traced back to a person, not Monica. Someone had rented the apartment, used her identity as cover. The roommate boxes were elaborate timelines of her stalking targets, each a different person, every month tracking. I'm in witness protection sort of limbo. My friend is staying at a friend's until I'm safe, or we find the real person behind the number. I have a restraining order. But I already found a new text. I'm still making stories. Yours is next. I'll never know who lived in that apartment before, or whether Monica was ever real. All I know is this: the person behind the boxes, the voice recorder, the recurrences, that was not benign. She or they lived inside what felt like a roommate's life, and calibrated everything. My name, my habits, my sleep, my boxes of names, even the phone number. If you ever find elaborate collections of boxes in someone's home with names you recognize, consider it a warning. Don't dismiss the cute decorations. Leave. Run. Someone was watching me, living through me, and possibly rewriting your narrative next. Story 2. I moved into the Ashwood apartments at the start of June. I was desperate. Tight budget, short notice, new job. The ad sounded perfect. Private room, quiet roommate, utilities included. The woman who posted it was named Clara. She responded fast and her texts were polite, almost old-fashioned. We arranged a tour that same week. When I arrived, she greeted me at the door wearing a white nightgown. Thin, pale, pretty in a 1960s vintage kind of way. Her hair was long and parted perfectly down the center. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're early," she said softly, stepping aside to let me in. The apartment was spotless. Minimal furniture, no smell, no clutter. Clara explained she mostly kept to herself, worked from home and spent her evenings reading or taking short walks. She didn't mention what she did for work. I didn't push it. I was tired of flaking roommates in overpriced holes. I moved in that weekend. Living with Clara was easy. At first, she was quiet, clean, and always left the kettle full. But she never ate, never cooked. I never saw her use the fridge, and I never once heard her open or close her bedroom door. Each morning, she'd be sitting on the couch in her white nightgown, facing the balcony window. She never turned on the TV, never scrolled a phone, just sat there, hands in her lap. When I asked if she wanted to hang out sometime, she smiled again, soft and flat. "I'm not much for company," she said, "but I'm happy you're here." Sometimes I'd come home from work and find her gone. Her bedroom door would be open, just a dark room, no bed, no furniture. Only a framed black and white photo sitting in the center of the floor. Of a younger Clara, much younger. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. I ran into the kitchen and found Clara on the floor, blood pouring from her wrists. I screamed, tried to help, but she just looked up at me and whispered, "Don't call anyone. This already happened." Then, her body disappeared. Just gone. No blood, no broken glass. Just the faint smell of lilies in the air. I stayed up all night, heart racing. In the morning, Clara was sitting on the couch, calm, serene. "Rough dreams?" she asked. I nodded, too afraid to say anything else. I started asking questions around the apartment complex. I met an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Myers, who had lived in Ashwood for decades. When I mentioned Clara, she squinted at me. Clara Reynolds? She said. Sweet girl. She died back in 1981. Suicide, her boyfriend left her. Cut her wrists in the bathtub. Apartment 2B. No one's been able to stay in that place for long. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's my apartment, I whispered. Mrs. Myers patted my hand gently. She's not evil, dear. Just lost. She thinks she's still alive. I went home and searched her room while she was out. The door, which always seemed dark and empty, now had a flickering ceiling light and a weak humming noise. Inside, I found dozens of white nightgowns hanging in a line, a yellowed newspaper clipping pinned to the wall, an obituary with her name and photo, a journal, empty except for the last page. Maybe if I keep living like normal, I'll stay. I backed out, heart pounding, and ran into her in the hallway. She stared at me, her eyes dark, hollow. You weren't supposed to go in there, she whispered. From that day on, Clara began to unravel. She stopped pretending. Some mornings she'd sit on the couch with blood dripping down her arms, leaving no stains. Some nights she'd appear in my room at 3 a.m., standing silently at the foot of my bed. She no longer avoided food, just stared at it. I heard her crying through the walls, moaning, "Please don't forget me, please." Once I woke up to find every mirror in the apartment shattered. And on the walls, written in something brown and sticky, "Do not let her leave." I moved into the living room and slept with the lights on. I packed my things in silence. She sat in the hallway, humming, head tilted. "You'll be back," she said. I ignored her. When I reached the door, it wouldn't open. The deadbolt spun in circles. The knob twisted, but didn't unlatch. The windows were stuck. My phone wouldn't dial out. Texts never delivered. I was trapped. That night, Clara stood in front of my door and whispered, "If I don't have a roommate, I disappear." She started sobbing, pulling at her hair, leaving pieces on the floor. I don't want to disappear. I don't want to be alone again. I tried reasoning with her. You're dead, Clara. You've been dead for decades. This isn't real. She shook her head, trembling. It's real to me. Then she reached out and touched my hand. It was ice cold, but real. I don't need much, just someone to stay. Please, stay until October. Then you can go. I agreed. I had no choice. The final night, I packed everything and said goodbye. Clara sat on the balcony, moonlight washing over her. Thank you, she said. I think I'm ready now. Then she stood, stepped up onto the railing, and fell. I screamed, ran out, only to find the street empty. No body, no blood. Just a single white nightgown folded on the sidewalk, and silence. 3 days later, I officially moved out. I left no forwarding address. But last night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just one photo of the Ashwood apartment living room. And Clara, sitting on the couch, smiling. Roommate wanted. Story 3. I found the listing online. Quiet roommate, fully furnished room, female tenants only, no parties, $500 per month. In this economy, I didn't ask too many questions. The apartment was in a modest old building near campus. Clean, cozy, a faint smell of lavender. I met Elise, the current tenant, during the showing. She was tall, thin, wore thick glasses and a cardigan even though it was July. She spoke softly and moved like she was afraid of breaking something. It's a quiet place, she said. I don't go out much. I hope that's okay. Perfect, I smiled. I hated noise, hated chaos. Elise seemed ideal. I moved in that weekend. The first week was smooth. Elise mostly kept to herself. I heard her moving around sometimes at night, soft footsteps, cabinet doors opening. She had a list of handwritten house rules posted on the fridge. Don't leave food out overnight. Keep the hallway light on after 9 p.m. Don't open my bedroom door. Ever. Never wake me up. The third rule stuck out. I figured it was some personal trauma or sleep disorder. Maybe she was just strict about privacy. I didn't press. But the fourth rule, that one would come back to haunt me. About 2 weeks in, I noticed it. Every night when I went to bed, I could hear breathing. Not mine. Elise's room was adjacent to mine, separated by a thin wall. But this wasn't normal sleep breathing. It was deliberate, deep, even inhales and slow exhales. Like she wanted me to know she was awake. Every time I shifted in bed or turned a page in a book, the breathing would stop. And then after a few seconds, it would start again. Heavier, almost excited. One night I woke up to get water. As I stepped into the hallway, I saw her, Elise, standing completely still in the darkness, facing my room. Her eyes were wide open. Her mouth was slightly ajar. "Elise?" I whispered. She didn't respond. I walked slowly past her, hard hammering. Her head turned slightly as I passed. I filled my glass and turned back. She was gone. The next morning, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, calmly reading a book. "You okay?" I asked. She smiled. "You shouldn't be up so late." I couldn't take it anymore. I set up my phone to record the hallway one night. At 2:13 a.m., the door to Elise's room opened. She crawled out, hands and knees, slow, deliberate. She reached my door, placed her ear against it, and stayed there for 10 minutes. Then she crawled back. Not once did she blink or stand. I couldn't sleep after that. I decided I needed to confront her, but first I wanted to check her room. She was out, grocery run, I think. I crept in. The room was plain. Bed, desk, lamp. But the closet, I opened it and nearly vomited. Inside was a collage of photos of me, printed in black and white, all taken from inside the apartment. Sleeping, eating, changing, hundreds of them. Dates written underneath. Notes scribbled like, "She smiled today. She left the light off. She doesn't know." I heard the front door creak. I slammed the closet shut and ran back to my room. That night I pretended to sleep. I left the door unlocked. At 1:58 a.m., it creaked open. I kept my breathing steady, my body frozen. She stepped inside. I could feel her presence next to my bed. Her breath hitched. I heard the faintest whisper. "I knew you'd stay." I fought every urge to scream. Then, the sound of her tongue clicking, slowly like a metronome. She stood there for 5 minutes, then left. I didn't sleep. I called the police the next morning, showed them the video. They searched her room. The closet was empty. No photos, no evidence. Elise claimed I was disturbed and unwell. Said I was imagining things, that I needed help. They believed her. She smiled at me as they left. I packed to leave. I didn't care if I lost my deposit. On my way out, Elise stood by the door. She held something in her hand. It was a lock of my hair, tied with a red ribbon. "You'll be back," she said softly. Then louder, "They always come back." I didn't respond. I just ran. I've been staying with friends for weeks. Changed my number. Got a new phone. Today I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, a photo of me sleeping. Taken last night. In a note. "You broke the rules, but I forgive you."